Welcome to Stratozone, the only way to start your migration journey. My name is Einstein, and I'm a senior program manager with Google Cloud. We also have Karl, Koshy, CEO of Stratozone, here today to talk about the benefits of Stratozone and how it will help you accelerate your cloud journey. One of the first pieces that you want to focus on when looking to migrate to the cloud is the assessment and discovery phase. Doing things proper early on will yield amazing results in the end. So one of the first pieces is to make sure that your team is properly educated on the cloud and that your engineers are ready to actually move to the cloud once you start the process. So things like training are critical in this phase. Also, you'll want to focus on experimentation. It's very important that they get to break things in order to understand how to get through some very interesting cloud paradigms during your migration. And also during the assessment phase, you need to catalog all of your applications. So we typically create 3 buckets, those which are easy, hard, and can't move. But when doing this, how do you go about sorting your applications? And also, how do you go about picking a first mover? In a typical enterprise, there are many applications which are interwoven. So doing this step properly is paramount to a successful migration. So as we discuss examples of application sorting, you can see that we have those systems which might be disconnected and non-critical. This might be something like a marketing website, backup and archive, or a dev test environment, where you're literally able to take them from their current environment, whether on-premise or another cloud, and lift and shift them into Google Cloud very easily. You'll also then have your set of applications that fall under what we call hard. Those are things like back office applications, data analytics. They're usually non-critical, but they're very interconnected. So those might not be the best first mover, but they're perfect for the cloud, and you might want to do those in a second or third wave. Then we also have those that just cannot move to the cloud, that maybe are running on legacy hardware, which just doesn't fit in a cloud paradigm. So what are the business characteristics of a good first mover? Well, when you think about it, you want those applications which are not business critical, and also which are not edge cases. You want to find applications that are stateless, that, as we've said previously, can literally be lifted and shifted, and that makes a great first mover because it allows you to learn the interworkings not only of the cloud, but of the migration process. You also focus on apps that do not require much refactoring for your first movers. It makes no sense spending a ton of time having your developers recode an app when there are other applications in your environment that can quickly be brought to the cloud as you're working through things like compliance. Also, be aware of those applications which do have compliance challenges or third-party proprietary licenses. When moving to the cloud or any sort of migration, you have to think about cutover windows. So when choosing that first mover, make sure it's an application where you can accept that downtime to your business so that when you lift and shift, it's not of significant impact to the business. And then most importantly, throughout all of these iterations, you're going to build a knowledge base for your engineers and for your team and for your business as a whole as it relates to cloud migration. This is why it's critical to find those right first movers so that you can build a knowledge base, which you then will build off of even further. So Google has created a cloud migration methodology, and it consists of 4 stages. The first, which we just referred to, is the assessment phase, which is where you understand what's currently in your environment, how it connects, and what would be needed when you start looking to move to the cloud. Next, you have the foundations phase, and this is where you actually set up the cloud for the first time. So what you do is you create a landing zone. You set up networking, identity and access management, security rules that are in compliance with what your company desires. Once the foundation is properly set up, you can then go through the migration phase, which ensures that what you're migrating goes into an environment that is properly sound based on your company's objectives and security model. Finally, the last phase is optimizing. Once you've lifted and shifted your applications to the cloud, now you can start optimizing and leverage cloud native technologies to really benefit from what the cloud brings. Now, I want to quickly touch on the assessment phase because this is often the one where people get stuck. And the reason why is actually understanding what's in your environment can be very difficult. Often, enterprises have applications that have spanned upwards of 20 years, and often the information is not readily available. By leveraging a tool like Stratozone, you're able to easily deploy their data collection utilities within your environment, collect the data of how your applications interact, review the analytics, and also optimize cloud strategy of what those applications will look like during the migration, and also create a business case and roadmap, which you can present to your IT leadership and corporate executives. Now, the 5 needs to create a cloud strategy are to have a scalable and non-intrusive discovery process or assessment phase, which is what Stratozone brings to bear, as well as the ability to define cloud fit and suitability. We discussed how not every application is a good fit for the cloud. And by leveraging Stratozone, you're able to quickly understand which one of those applications might need to be retooled or might not be a fit. Also defining the shared consumption plan. So delivering the highest savings and return on investment within Google Cloud. Maybe understanding that certain things that ran in your on-premise environment, you can adjust the metrics of RAM, CPU to something a little less and get significant savings without a performance hit. Also, defensible and competitive financials. So getting the information that you're then going to give to your CFO, to your CEO, that clearly defines what your cloud strategy is from a financial aspect and what it looks like over time. And then also a consumable roadmap. Now that you understand the financials, now that you understand what's going to move, what does that look like over time? And how are we going to get our entire organization into the cloud? So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Karl Koshy, CEO of Stratozone, to talk more about Stratozone and how you can leverage it today.
Thanks, Dad. So we're going to spend a minute talking about what Stratozone delivers to the customer. There are 2 levels of deliverables. First, we're talking about the basics. The first set of deliverables is around financials, business case, and roadmap. So let's go through some of those. Number 1, Stratozone helps you to very efficiently discover your environment. This is an agentless data collection process that's very quick. After this is done, Stratozone will then capture the customer requirements, which it overlays on the underlying data, thereby helping to pick the best fit products and ultimately arrive at the what goes where and when. This is the crux of what Stratozone delivers. That includes a delivery model, which could determine how you consume cloud. Is this infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and so on? Or is something not meant to go to cloud in your implementation model? So you decide on your cloud model, such as your hybrid model, a private, public, or otherwise blended model that you may want to use. After this, the platform helps you develop your business case, create your adoption roadmap, and then also create a migration plan. Some of the advanced deliverables include machine shaping, optimization, roadmap modeling, PaaS analysis, which is platform as a service analysis, and then most importantly, dependency mapping. This is an important component of what customers look for in their environment to see what talks to what and how all of your applications are related. This is a very critical component needed when you decide what of your environment is going to move first, second, last, and also decide on the timing for those. With this, we'll go now into how you can use Stratozone and what the process looks like to implement Stratozone. So the first step in the process is to register either as a customer, or a partner can register their customer at gogcp.stratozone.com. Once again, that's gogcp.stratozone.com. The customer then receives 1 or more data collectors, which are simple install shield applications that they will use to install the application in their environments. It could be 1 collector per environment or 1 collector across multiple environments. This is the customer's choice. The second step in the process is where the customer's technical administrators deploy the data collectors after customizing it to their needs. This could include deciding what IP ranges they want to collect upon or what environments they want to collect upon. Once that collector is deployed within 24 hours, customers, partners, as well as your cloud provider can come up there and take a look and see what those results look like. This includes the analysis of the environment, optimization of assets, optimization of your machine shapes and how you would consume cloud, as well as developing a roadmap and moving on to the next steps in your planning. Now, the Stratozone data collector is agentless. It is all encrypted. It's lightweight. And most importantly, customers can decide what data fields they want to anonymize from within their firewall that reaches the Stratozone portal. So this is a custom anonymization ability given to customers. Let's take a second and talk about data security and the data that's collected. The data that's collected primarily focuses on machine data, things like performance, installed application names, network traffic, processes and services that are running, and the utilization of all of these components. What we do not collect is user information or profiles, any data that's underlying the applications, anything in your database or file storage, application configuration files, for example, or typically any data that is subject to any regulatory compliances. All of the data is encrypted in transit and at rest, and customers can anonymize any data they see fit from leaving their firewall and going to the Stratozone portal.
Thank you, Karl. So, as one of the next steps for you, you can actually start your learning journey with Google Cloud today. And most importantly, actually get hands-on with Stratozone to run through your own assessment within a fully functional Google Cloud environment. To do so and take the Introduction to Stratozone Assessment Hands-on Lab, you can register for access to Google Cloud Learning's learning tools, one of those being our hands-on labs platform, Quick Labs, where you can actually start the exact lab for Stratozone and leverage the functionality that Karl spoke about today. Prior to that, Karl will go through a demo which will show how the product is leveraged and how you can benefit from it for your cloud migration.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a demo of the Stratozone platform. This demo will be focused on the basic assessment. We will first walk you through the process of starting an assessment, reviewing your assessment data, and finally, generating a report showing your cloud fit and business case. To get started, you will first need to register your customer at gogcp.stratozone.com. When you do so, you will also receive a separate registration link via email. Once you create your username and password, you'll be able to log in at portal.stratozone.com and get to this dashboard that I'm looking at now. So, once you're here, how does Stratozone help you and your customer on the cloud migration journey? Well, we have two different modules associated with the assessment. First is the Analyze module, and this is where all of the raw data from the environment is collected. It's also where we review that data and validate that it's the complete set of migration candidates. The Analyze module will also allow you to create an initial business case. The Plan module is here for more advanced price modeling, as this allows you to do custom groupings, custom right sizing, and also select particular VM instances per server. So let's start with the Analyze module. When you first click on the Analyze module, you'll be presented with the Analyze dashboard. In this dashboard, you can view the total number of servers collected into inventory. You can view the number of those servers that are Windows and Linux, and which ones are marked out of scope. You can also view the total virtual core count, the VRAM, and the allocated storage. In the bottom right here, you can view the server age distribution, and in the top right, you can view our Stratafit score, which is a measure of infrastructure cloud readiness. Next, let's view the Summary tab. The Summary tab is still taken in aggregate of all customer servers. However, it does allow you to view some metrics that are not available in the Dashboard tab. For instance, you can view the exact operating system distribution of the customer environment, as well as that environment's memory distribution. In the bottom left, you can view some basic asset statistics about the environment. And in the bottom right, you can view the asset utilization as a percentage of the total allocated capacity. On the left side toolbar, you can view additional details about the operating systems, storage, memory, server age, and the installed software within the environment. Of course, you won't be able to view this information until the scan is actually running. To view the progress of the scan, access the Assessments tab at the top. After you click on Assessments, you'll be presented with your different assessment groups. In this example, we have a group for East Coast, West Coast, Primary Data Center, and anything that's not Windows or Linux, which must be a manual asset entry. As you can see, we have one collector for each data center location. The general recommendation is to have one per location, but keep in mind that the customer can install more than one per location if desired, and any duplicate assets that are scanned by both collectors will be automatically removed by the system. Note that for each collector, you can check the status of the scan, as well as the server count of the expected values. For the status, it will either say complete or installed if it's been started, or it will say not started if it has not been installed and connected to the web service. After the collectors are installed and configured, you'll be able to view the inventory as it comes in. To do so, access the Inventory tab at the top. Now that we have accessed this specific server, at the top you can see all of the basic configuration info. This will tell you not only what is the server name and IP, but also whether it's a virtual machine or bare metal, how many CPU cores are allocated, how much RAM is allocated, what operating system it's running on, as well as the processor of the host machine. If you scroll down, you can also view graphs that outline the performance data or the utilization of each of those components over time. Similar to the Summary tab, more information can be accessed on the left-hand toolbar. For instance, clicking on the Storage tab will allow you to view details about the exact storage partitions, what's free, what's not. If you click on Network, you can view the exact network configuration as well as what subnet that server is located in. You can also view running services on that server, running processes, installed software, if there are any, as well as memory utilization metrics and CPU utilization metrics by process. What I have just shown you from the Inventory tab represents all of the configuration and performance data that we have collected from each server. The last piece of information that we have are the network dependencies. To view the network dependencies, click on the Dependency tab at the top. The Analyze Dependency tab allows you to view server-to-server network dependencies by selecting an individual server. To select that server, you can do so by accessing your collector groups and a specific collector, or you can just click on Details on the left-hand toolbar to view all available servers. Once you've selected the server that you want, click on the eyeglasses symbol to view it. This will now provide you with a graphical view of the network dependencies, as well as a more specific view in a table format below. As you can see, we're collecting the protocol, source and target IP, source and target port, as well as the installed app on the source machine. All of this information comes from a netstat command and is included as part of the agentless scan via Strataprobe. One critical feature of this tab is its ability to detect unscanned devices. You can see an example of this down here where it says unscanned device. If I expand that, you can see the same netstat details about that unscanned device. You can also view that device in a graphical format up here. There is an unscanned device button that will bundle any unscanned devices. If you double click that and click this in the top right to neaten the view, you can see that there are actually two distinct IP addresses. Now, we have not scanned these devices, and so the only thing that we know about them are their IPs. But this is still nonetheless useful for a scoping exercise to ensure that all target servers are being included in the analysis. The next tab we will look at is the Stratafit tab. The Stratafit tab is a machine-level indicator of cloud readiness. It does not take into account broader server-side application structure. However, it does look at each individual server and determine, based on that server's capacity and operating system, whether it is ready for a lift and shift to the cloud. As you can see, the Stratafit is represented by three different scores: low, medium, and high. High are the easy movers. These are the servers that are already modernized and ready for lift and shift. Lows are anything that is incompatible for the cloud entirely. Usually this is due to an older operating system, say an old CentOS version like CentOS 4 or 5, or Windows 2000/2003 that are deemed incompatible for the cloud. The servers that are flagged medium are somewhere in between, where they are technically modernized enough for the cloud. However, they tend to have a higher number of network dependencies with other servers. This means that they are most likely involved in some type of broader, more complicated app structure that may make it more difficult to move. If you would like to investigate why a particular server received the score that it did, you can do so on the left-hand toolbar under Details. If you click on Details, it will list out all of the scored servers from low to medium to high. If you want to know why a server received a score other than high, simply click on the drop-down for that server and view those reasons in sentence format. Note that the Stratafit score has 6 different parameters. You can customize how sensitive each of these parameters are on the left-hand toolbar under Actions, Customize Parameters. If you click on Customize Parameters, you will see all 6 of them listed out, and you can adjust the slider bar to change the sensitivity of each. To finish up the Analyze module, let's take a look at the Reports tab. Within the Reports tab, it's important to note that any of the information contained in the Analyze module can be exported as a report. At the top are our summary reports, which tend to be either slideshows or PDFs. At the bottom are our detailed reports, which are essentially CSV dumps of the raw information. To generate an executive summary report slideshow, create a summary report. First, click on the button for that. Then select the groups, whether collectors or bill groups, that you would like to include in the slideshow. You can then select your baseline vendor catalog, which we will usually use the private data center. Compare that to the various Google catalogs. Name it, and click Create Report. After your report is finished building, you can download it by clicking this icon. Note that you can download it as a Google Slides as well, if you prefer. Now let's open this up so we can take a look at what is produced. So for starters, it will produce some introductory slides like a table of contents, as well as a background on the overall assessment process. It will also produce a slide outlining the different collectors that were set up. Then it's going to jump right into the high-level findings. So this is the high-level configuration here, followed by some more advanced metrics like the utilization percentage in the bottom right. And then jumping into the cloud readiness. So this is the Stratafit score, which is an infrastructure cloud readiness score. And we also have a PaaS-Fit score. So this is going to identify any potential PaaS candidates. After those high-level findings, we'll show the financial comparison. And this is what that's going to look like. After covering the financial comparison, there will be a couple of slides talking about the high-level next steps. And this is intended to lead into the next conversation for an advanced service.
Thanks so much for that demo, Karl. Really impressive. And with that being said, I just wanted to recall for everyone who's watching that you can also do exactly what Karl just did in a full hands-on lab environment prior to deploying Stratozone within your environment. To do so and take the Introduction to Stratozone Assessments hands-on lab, follow the first link to register for access to Google Cloud Learning's platforms, and then click on the following link so that you can start the lab and actually leverage Stratozone within a real-world hands-on lab environment prior to actually deploying it in your enterprise environment. With that being said, Karl and I would both like to thank you for your time. We look forward to seeing you on Google Cloud, and we hope you really enjoy the benefits that Stratozone will bring to your business. Thank you.
Thank you.